In this video, I'm going to talk about the foods that you must avoid to help with your ADHD brain. Foods can certainly be a great impact on our ADHD brain when we eat the right foods, but when we eat the wrong foods, it certainly can really damage our ADHD brain and something we need to avoid. Now, I'm going to talk about 3 different categories of foods that you should be avoiding for your ADHD brain. But I get it, we're human and we like to eat different types of foods. We like to enjoy the foods that aren't necessarily good for us. So I always tell my clients and my patients, the best thing to do is apply the 80 to 20% rule. So what that means is 80% of the time you're eating good foods and you're avoiding all those bad foods that are typically going to be in these 3 categories. And then 20% of the time, eat whatever you want. Now, within reason, of course, because sometimes some of these categories, you might be more sensitive than others with other people with ADHD, and so you should avoid it altogether. But understand, you have to kind of experiment. So let's talk about those 3 categories. The first one that you should be avoiding, a good portion of the time is high sugar foods and snacks. So this is stuff that have like additive sugars and have fructose corn syrup in it. Stuff that, where is soda pops. Soda pops are going to be bad. Any kind of energy drinks. And of course, anything that has additive sugars in a lot of your simple carbs you should be avoiding. Now you might be wondering, okay, why should I avoid it? A lot of people tell me this as I grew up, like avoid sugar. Okay, that should help with your ADHD. Well, generally, most people should be avoiding sugar, but why is it important for people with ADHD? Well, you gotta understand, us people that have ADHD, we're very sensitive. And especially when it comes to sugar, we gotta think about how sugar works in our body chemistry. And when we are consuming sugar, it goes in our bloodstream, and especially it gives us that high spike of energy, but then it isn't sustainable. And we need to have good sustainable energy throughout so that we can have sustainable focus throughout. So when we have irregular blood sugar levels, that's what these high sugar foods do and simple carbs will do over time, is have irregular blood sugar levels. And when we have irregular blood sugar levels, then of course our focus and attention is off. We will have brain fog more. And so you need to stabilize this with more proteins. Proteins will help balance this out, but trying to avoid them altogether and try to focus on better types of carbs, more complex carbs. The second category that you should be avoiding is artificial dyes and preservatives. You know what I'm talking about, and maybe you're an adult and your mother told you this and you thought, it didn't do anything for me. Now, some people with ADHD, they've seen in research that it can be more sensitive, more so to others, but not so much to other people with ADHD. It really depends, but it still impacts a lot of us, even people who don't have ADHD. But why does it impact people with ADHD? It's because we are highly sensitive, and when there is dyes, our body doesn't know how to process this stuff, or a lot of the preservatives. It's just not good for our health, and therefore it can impact our brain when we are highly sensitive, and so it's something good to just avoid altogether. The third category is foods that can cause food allergies. Now, what is most common that I see with people with ADHD is going to be wheat, milk, soy, nuts, sometimes even eggs. The reason why this is important is if you do have a food allergy, food sensitivity, what's going to cause is internal inflammation. It can be throughout your digestive tract. It could also cause brain fog. It can cause poor concentration. It can do a lot of different things when you have an actual food allergy or food sensitivity. And why that's important for the ADHD brain? Well, we need to rely on having the most optimal brain as possible. And if we're consuming something that is causing inflammation throughout the body and also causing issues with our brain to be sharp and focused, to be productive, then it's best to try to avoid those foods as much as possible. Now, you might be wondering, okay, how do I know if I have a food allergy? Yeah, you could run tests. That could get expensive, but let me tell you a little secret. There's actually a better way and a free way to find out if you have a food allergy or food sensitivity. And this is the food elimination diet. And this is how it works, simply put. So I mentioned about those 4 or 5 different categories, wheat, milk, soy, nuts, and eggs. Now you can eliminate all those together if you like, all at once. And you got to eliminate it completely from all ingredients. That's how you do the food elimination diet to see if you actually have a food allergy or food sensitivity. You eliminate it all together for at least a month. And then you reintroduce one food group at a time. And you're going to notice through that month of avoiding it, you want to see if your ADHD symptoms have decreased. Have I had better focus? Do I have more energy or, less energy, more calm, right? You got to look at these things as far as what are your current symptoms now, and when you eliminate these foods, did it make a difference in that month? And if it did, then you might suspect, okay, maybe there is some kind of food sensitivity or allergy going on here. But then you got to understand, okay, which one is it? And this is why you only introduce one food group at a time. So when that month has passed, sometimes you have to do 6 weeks, but when that month has passed, you introduce one food group. So you would start, okay, let's reintroduce milk. You do it for a couple days. You see if your symptoms return. And if they don't, then you cross out milk. Then you do wheat. See if your symptoms return. Now, if they do return, you're like, okay, wheat is a culprit of maybe I'm more sensitive. And you determine how great of a symptoms those are, determine if you maybe need to eat it less or just completely remove it from your diet altogether. Now, it's nice to know what foods to implement and what foods to avoid to help with your ADHD brain, but what's even better is knowing what foods to use therapeutically for treatment for ADHD, to use food as your medicine, and how to know which ones are going to be best for you to use it as treatment and how to implement it as treatment. So come and join me right here on this video where I discuss about the types of foods that you could use as more as therapeutic to have food become your medicine for your ADHD.